ये इसलिए जरूरी है कि बड़े भाई का प्यार छोटे भाई को मिलेगा। सरदार पटेल रिप्लाइड, हम वो आपको देकर भुगत चुके हैं, अब हमें ऐसा प्यार नहीं चाहिए, आपको रहना होगा। देयर विल बी नो सेपरेट रिट्रीट, यानी वही जो मांग 1916 में मुस्लिम लीग ने कांग्रेस से मंगवा ली थी, वही कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन असेंबली में मांगी गई। इसके बहुत हिस्टोरिकल फैक्ट हैं, सबको आइडियोलॉजी पता है। आइडियोलॉजी केवल एक है, देश का कुछ भी होता है हो जाए, केवल हमें सत्ता थोड़ी सी मिल जाए।
The defenses they've come together, Mr. Trivedi, is to save democracy and save the constitution. For example, the left that you spoke of has said that your party is appropriating the Ram Mandir inauguration. It's unconstitutional to make it a political event, which you're making it. The other alliance partners are saying that you can't appropriate Ram and dish out inaugural invitations while the party is going to be projected as as a political event, the entire occasion.
Actually, I would like to say nobody can dare or think of appropriating Bhagwan Ram. Bhagwan Ram is considered, one more thing I would like to make it very clear. In Hinduism, Bhagwan Ram is not the son of the God or the messenger of the God or the representative of the God. He is God himself.
Let's listen in to Dr. S Jaishankar before I get you
तात राम नहीं नर भूपाला भुवनेश्वर कालू कर काला.
Where
clear cut रामचरितमानस में लिखा हुआ he is himself God, and who can appropriate God? You can just have a devotion towards God.
Now again,
God
it's
will
not my case that we should have necessarily taken the seat.
Those who have took a stand, I remember in my childhood,
to say that we should first let China, China's interests should come
अयोध्या
first.
थी कि नहीं कि पहले साबित करो। और फिर एक नेता खड़े होकर कह रहे थे इतने हजार कमरे थे तो यही पे हुआ था कि नहीं साबित करो। और उसके बाद every time they try to put hurdle in the court,
from a basis of realism,
टाइम बहुत लग जाएगा उसमें जाने में, मगर उसके बाद हमारे लिए it was never an election issue, it was never a political issue, it is an issue of भारतीय अस्मिता. It is issue pending since 1528. इसलिए जब हम दो सीटों की पार्टी थे, कभी जमाने में जिंदगी में नहीं सोचा था हमारी केंद्र में सरकार आएगी, तब भी राम मंदिर के साथ उतनी निष्ठा के साथ खड़े थे, 303 में भी खड़े हैं। मगर ये 414 के समय तो बाबरी मस्जिद के पास खड़े थे, जो कहते थे परिंदा नहीं पर मार पाएगा, वो आज कहते हैं इनविटेशन नहीं आ पाएगा। Look at the change of their ideological stance and look our firmness of our ideological.
My final question, Mr. Trivedi, is if you just look at data and you look at numerics, if the India Alliance succeeds in seat
one more thing I would like to add for Ram Temple,
go ahead, sir.
that it is very much required not only for India, for the entire world. Why?
Seat, Shiv.
Because this symbolizes the highest
for the
human
last
value.
4
दुनिया का
years,
इतिहास भरा पड़ा है, भाई भाई को मार के गद्दी पे बैठा, बेटा बाप को मार के गद्दी पे बैठा. In that contrast, if somebody will come and will put down his head or her head in front of that temple, तो उसे याद आएगा कि पिता के एक वचन पे जंगल चला जाना, दूसरा भाई उसके साथ जाना और तीसरा खड़ाऊ सर पे रखना. This is the highest. जो बिलीव नहीं करते भगवान नाम में, उनसे कहता हूँ भाई कभी तुम ऐसा कोई
Congress-led governments, whether it is 1962, whether it is 1975, whether it is the depth sum and depth job issues.
Final question, sir, which I was asking.
The only
if you
two
look at data,
outstanding
you
issues
look at
between India and China,
the India
following
Alliance,
the
if it comes
standoff,
together,
because
where
all the
seat
friction
sharing is
points
concerned,
have resulted in
it could pose a
limited
problem. You don't think so, Mr.
disengagements. But the
Trivedi?
two outstanding issues that the two sides are still talking about happen to be legacy issues that date back to either the UPA government or before. Now, the fact that the Jaishankar, the External Affairs Ministry, has drawn a comparison between the romanticism of Nehru and the realism of Sardar Patel and drawing that parallel down to Congress governments and the Modi government is extremely crucial, because this is precisely what the government's defense has actually been based on, saying, who are you to lecture us, especially at a time when we've deployed in a huge way precisely to try and prevent the kind of issues that your governments had created in the past. The romanticism of Nehru that the government and Jaishankar appears to be speaking about now is the huge strategic benefit of doubt that Nehru and Nehru's government constantly and repeatedly gave to China over many, many different years in the 50s and the 60s, leading up to the 62 war. It was that kind of self-assuredness that China would never mean any harm, the fact that linkages between the two countries would never really result in any strategic attacks or takeover of territory that resulted in the 62
don't agree
war.
with you.
And
It's a
those
distant
lessons
dream.
are precisely what has
Of course, the
resulted
BJP
in the
hopes that it's a
realism that
nightmare.
what
It's
Jaishankar
neither
says
a distant dream nor a
started or
nightmare.
had
It's
its
something which
genesis
we
in
are
how
already
Sardar Patel viewed
way
China
ahead in
and
terms
has
of our
come down to how
internal
India has now reacted to China.
conversations
Everything else
with our
that he
PCC
says
presidents.
is just politics.
And that pragmatic approach was there right from the
Friday
beginning
and Saturday
when it
were
comes
2
to
days
Sardar Vallabhbhai
where
Patel. And
all
that
these
approach was very
conversations
different
took
when it came
place,
to
and the
Pandit
report
Jawaharlal Nehru, and
would be
very
given by the
specifically
committee
here
to
Dr.
the Congress
S
president
is
maybe on Monday
is
or
directly
maybe today,
talking about
which is
the
a Sunday.
United Nations
So
Security
let's see.
Council seat,
But
which
it's
could
not a
well
distant
have
dream
been
at all.
a massive game changer
But the
for
deadline of
India
31st
right
December
in the
has been surpassed.
1950s. The United
Not
States
really again,
was
because
talking
in
about
principle we are all in
India
agreement
being
with
in the United Nations
the
Security
broad
Council,
contours.
and
But you know, within our own party,
sent out
we
signals
have
to
a
Pandit
very
Nehru, but he
quote-unquote
said China
democratic
first,
process
according
of
to Dr. Jaishankar.
taking into account
History would
opinions
have
and
been very
views of
different
our
had
state
a more
units.
pragmatic
We don't
approach been
impose
taken,
decisions from Delhi on our state
Absolutely.
units.
You know, Gaurav,
So, of course,
when it comes to
takes time.
strategic
And
follies
it
or
is taking time.
faux pas, the Nehru era
speak
provides
of that
a
takes
great
time.
deal of
I'll
data,
hark
a
back
lot
to
of
your
instances and
Nagpur
examples
rally,
to
Mr.
pick up
Khera.
on at this
On the
time.
same
Now,
day
the
when
Modi
you
government
kickstarted your
is
2024
accused
campaign, there were people within your
constantly
party,
of,
senior leaders like Ashok Chauhan,
always
who
picking up
openly
issues from the
said
Nehru
that
era,
the
or blaming
23
things
seat
on
demand
Nehru.
by
That's a matter of politics. But when it comes to the China
will never
issue,
be entertained.
things are actually
So,
pretty valid here. The
while we
arguments
say
are
that
pretty
all is
valid
well,
because
clearly
whether
on
it
ground
comes
it
to
doesn't quite seem so.
the ridiculous generosity in passing
I
over
think
the Security Council seat in
Congress
favor of
party
China,
is the
practically
father or the
recommending
mother
China
of coalition politics in
to
India.
the kind of Hindi
So,
chini bhai
Congress
bonhomie that
knows
preceded
what
the
a coalition,
1962
how to
war,
stitch a coalition,
the overconfidence
how to,
in relations, all that
ensure that
boils
the
down
coalition
to
survives,
how the leadership
how
actually
to,
viewed
adhere
China,
to the
how the
coalition
leadership
dharma.
completely
All
misread
these
China's
aspects,
intentions.
I think the
And that's the
BJP may
reason
find
why
it
you
difficult,
have the
not
current
for the
government
Congress.
bring up
Well, the
Nehru,
BJP
because
and the Vajpayee
you
also
have to see
understood
it from not
but,
just Dr. S.
Congress
Jaishankar's viewpoint,
understands
but also the
coalition
government at large, Gaurav.
very well, much better than
very,
any
very
other party.
simply put, it boils down
But
to
you
the
know, Mr.
government
Pawan
saying,
Khera, the
who
fact
are
is that
you
your
to tell us
allies
about a China
don't really
policy
consider
when
you
your
anymore as the
entire
father or the
legacy
mother
has been
of coalitions.
bending
They'd
over
rather look
backwards
at
as
you
far
as a
as China
brother,
is
which
concerned,
possibly you
and
don't
not
see
knowing
yourself
when
as.
the enemy was standing right in front
No,
of
I
you.
meant
That is
of
what the government is saying right now.
concept of
Shiv,
coalitions.
keep tracking that
I'm
story.
not
I
trying
will
to
come
be
back to
big
you
brotherly
for more
about
very
about
clearly.
the
In
coalition.
fact,
No,
you
that's not what I.
Arun Jaitley, late
That's not how it
Finance
should
Minister
be
of
translated.
India, had
But
also called
we
Pandit
understand
Jawaharlal
how
Nehru
to
the
stitch a
original
coalition is
sinner
what I'm
when it
I'm
came
trying
to
to say.
foreign policy, especially on China and on Pakistan.
All right, so,
but Prime
but
Minister Narendra Modi's
is
foreign
there a
policy
sense of realization,
has
Mr.
been
Khera? And, you can answer it whichever way you want.
Interests forward,
in,
and
let's
Dr.
say a state like
S. Jaishankar
Maharashtra,
has
2019 you had just one seat, in a West Bengal too. So,
he spoke of
in states
India,
like this,
US,
is
India,
there
China,
an
India,
understanding and a
Pakistan, and even
realization that the
India-Canada
bargaining
relations,
power of the
while
Congress
speaking
cannot be
of
much?
India preparing for a larger global
When we talk
footprint
about
in times
when we
to
talk
come.
to our coalition
Engaging
partners,
with multiple
Preeti,
international powers,
we talk
with no
with an open mind,
exclusivity
with a large
in
heart,
any relationship,
with a clear understanding of
spectacular
where we
success
stand
in the G20
as
was
political
proof
parties, all of
why
us, each one of us.
Bharat matters.
It's not just data from the last
Combative
elections.
and to
It's
the
not
point,
just
External
data
Affairs
from a
Minister
decade,
Dr. S. Jaishankar
decadal
started the new
electoral
year
data.
with
No,
some
it's
straight
much more
talk
than that.
on Pakistan.
It is a very dynamic process.
What Pakistan
so I
was
wouldn't
trying
at
to
this
do,
stage like to comment
not now,
in
but over
details
multiple
about
decades,
it. But
was
as I
really
said,
to use
for any
cross-border
coalition
terrorism to bring India to
take
the
shape,
table. Okay, that in
every
essence
single partner,
was its core
stakeholder
policy.
needs to have a
We
broad,
have
open
made
mind and a large
that
heart,
irrelevant,
which Congress
by
party and I'm
not
sure even our partners
not playing that
have.
game.
At a macro level,
now,
Mr. Khera, if you
it's
actually
not
look
a
at it,
case that
what do you feel will be the biggest
that we
challenges, or
don't,
which states will throw
will
up the
not
biggest
deal
challenges
with a
in
neighbor.
seat sharing?
After all, at the end of the
Will it
day,
be
a
a
neighbor
Bengal or
is a
Uttar
neighbor.
Pradesh? You're already
But
facing
it is
issues in
that
Maharashtra, sir.
we will not deal on the basis of terms that they say
I don't
where
see
the
any
practice
major
of
challenge
terrorism is
coming our
deemed as
way in terms
legitimate
of which state will throw a challenge. Well, everything
and
is a
effective
challenge.
in order to bring it to the
Politics
table.
is nothing but
On the China
a series
front,
of
the External Affairs
challenges
Minister
within the party,
dismissed the
outside
charge
the
of
party,
India losing in mind
within the
games
state,
to
everywhere.
China.
Challenges is not something, it doesn't have any negative negative
I don't
overtones.
think we always lost out, but
we are happy to
would argue that at various points
negotiate
of time,
with these
when we
challenges.
talk about
But not tell me which
the parts
are
of the
those
past
challenges, or which
today
leaders or which states
would
will
be very
be
difficult for
those
someone to
challenges.
understand. The
Very
Panchsheel
fine art
Agreement is
of-
another such
very
a
fine art of
the role
Preeti,
of
of
confidence, the
balancing
role of
the
assurance,
aspirations
the fact,
of our
I mean,
state
we are
units.
multiple
Don't
millennia
forget, this is- we are
civilization.
dealing with a national
all this
election.
should be
The
in our
perspective has to be
demeanor, in
national.
our standing, and in the way in
Issues
which we
would be
approach other
national.
countries.
compulsions would also be
In
national.
an exclusive interview to
Doesn't
India
mean
today,
that we do not
Prime
take
Minister
into account,
Narendra
doesn't
Modi
mean that we do
has
not
spoken
consider
about the Modi way
strengths and the
of dealing with
weaknesses,
Pakistan and China.
of our state units.
He said, and we
But
quote,
ultimately,
the Modi way of
it's the
dealing
India
with our
alliance,
neighbours is to be
Mr.
constructive
Khera, and it's
and
something which,
cooperative
the top
when
leadership of the
required,
Congress has also
and
reiterated.
equally
It's
to
not
be
the Congress
firm
fighting the
and
election, but the
steadfast
India alliance.
when needed,
So, do you see
both
state units
on
falling in line
initiatives
with
and
that?
challenges. You can see the
Absolutely.
difference.
It's
Grilled
just a
salmon.
matter of
Top meal for the nation's
long-drawn
top
conversations.
coders. By the way, which campus?
Believe me, for any consensus
Pilani.
within a party, within an alliance,
Jabalpur.
conversations are
Naya,
important, and
Private
those
college है।
conversations are taking place in a very,
बच्चे
very
मेहनती हैं।
congenial
सही guidance मिले
atmosphere.
तो
We are talking to
यहाँ
each
तक
other.
पहुँच ही जाते हैं।
With
allies
coding
also
ninjas,
in a very,
1 lakh
congenial
learners crack dream
atmosphere.
roles at top tech companies.
Mr. Khera,
and
do
got
you
what
agree
they
that,
deserved.
with some of your allies echo very openly in television studios now as well, that
In Canadian politics,
Congress has been a little slow
these Khalistani
in,
forces
forget about
have been
seat sharing,
given
but even
a
looking
lot
at
of
the
space
cohesiveness
and
of
have
this
been
alliance,
allowed to
where
indulge
till
in
now, of
activities
course,
which,
understandably, you were busy with the
I
five-state
think
election.
are
Now you're
damaging
embarking
to
on
the
a 90-day
relationship.
yatra.
Clearly,
Political
not in
expedition
India's
should be
interest, but I
welcome,
would
but
argue
maybe
not
not
in
at the
Canada's
cost of an
interest.
alliance.
No, I
A
would
new
say, look, this is
resurgent
we are talking
Bharat
about a
is
national
dealing
party.
with the world
You can only
on
compare a
Bharat's
national party
own
with another
terms.
national party.
Bureau
Regional
report,
parties have
India
the
Today.
advantage of maneuverability, of speed, which national
And joining me on
parties,
the
whether it's the
broadcast is
BJP or the
Ambassador
Congress,
Vivek Kaju, former
unfortunately,
Secretary in
do
the
not
Ministry of External
have.
Affairs.
But
Also
that's the
with me on
nature
the
of
broadcast, Sushant
size.
Sareen,
I mean, the
Senior
size
Fellow
really
at
is
the
huge.
Observer
We are
Research
present in every
Foundation,
district of the
and
country. We
Sanjay
need to
Jha,
take into
political
account several
analyst.
factors,
Sushant Sareen,
state factors, local
Dr.
factors,
Jaishankar
regional
has
factors,
taken the battle right
factors,
into the Congress
of course,
camp on the issue
national
of
factors.
the United
All
Nations
these
Security
factors
Council
do take
seat,
time
the EAM
in
saying
addressing.
And you don't see
this
the
charge is
alliance
extremely
falling
serious. The
collateral
fact
to
that the
that,
EAM
because many
says
would
that
say that this could be an
China's
exercise,
should come
the
first
yatra that I'm
is
speaking
very
of the next 90
peculiar.
days, in
Accusing
building your
Nehru
own party
of
unit,
putting
energizing
China
your own
first.
cadre. What comes off the India alliance then?
No,
Yeah,
it's,
so
it's
some
not
of it,
just energizing
Gaurav,
our cadre. It's the message, and the
a kind
message
of a
is,
political
I'm sorry,
statement. But I
as you
think
know,
on
the
the
message
larger
is
point,
not just the Congress
where,
message. This is the
Pandit
message of
Nehru's
the
own letters
Constitution,
say
which
that,
all our
we have to first,
allies are
we
also
are
worried about.
okay
Believe me,
even
some
if
of
we
the
are
BJP
going
and
to get a
ND
seat
allies
to
are
the
also worried
United
about.
Nations
So when we're
Security
talking
Council,
about
but
saving the
first
Constitution,
China
we're
must
talking about
be
social,
accommodated
economic, and
out there,
political
something to
justice.
that
We are not
effect. I'm
just talking about the
paraphrasing.
Congress ideology. We are not
Clearly,
just talking
I
about the
think
Congress
Dr.
agenda.
Jaishankar hits
This
the
is the
nail on the
agenda
head
of
when
the
he says that,
opposition.
look,
This is the agenda
how
of India.
can the
So
Prime
I don't
Minister of
see
a
how a
country
yatra comes
put
in
the
the way
interests
or
of
becomes an
another country
obstruction
before his
to
own
any
country?
other process
Now,
being
at best,
adopted,
this
being
is
followed
romanticism.
by
At worst,
the
this is
India
naivety.
Alliance or by the
I
Congress
certainly won't
party.
accuse
Yatra just
Nehru
fits
of
into it very well.
being disloyal to this
Okay,
country.
let me ask
That
you
is
one more
certainly
question
not
with the
my
yatra.
case.
This time around, the
But
second
yeah,
version,
there was this thing that,
your
you
yatra
want
is going to
appear
pass
to be
through
very
states
nice
which
to
have
some
very different
countries like
demography,
China and some of the
topography,
other
political
countries. We've
landscape.
done the same
In
thing
many
with
of the
Pakistan.
states that
We've
you're
done
going
the
to
same
pass
thing
through
with
of the
many other
14, you
countries.
actually came
Where
in
we
with
say,
a
no,
zero
you have to
figure
first take
in
care of their
2019,
interests.
Pawan Khera. Would you think this yatra could change it so quickly this time around, coming at the back of a rout in the Hindi heartland in the state elections?
And all this virtue signaling which was done in the past,
There are
simply
several
so that
aspects
you
to your question.
appear to be nice to
Number one,
countries like
the
China,
word that caught my
hasn't really
attention was
paid
route.
off. How did
It's
it pay
not a
off?
route.
And once
Our
again,
vote share
Gaurav,
is
it's extremely
not just
important to
intact.
understand that
Some states
Pandit
also
Nehru
gone
was
up.
nobody's
All
fool.
that we need to
At the
understand,
time when he was
comprehend,
saying
and
all this,
address
he was
is that why
also
is the new
mindful of
voter
what
not
the Chinese were
getting
up to.
drawn to our
Yes.
message?
And
that
he knew what
is
the Chinese
definitely,
ingress
as we
into
speak,
India
definitely
is.
being
He
addressed.
knew all of that. Now, I don't know whether this
The
was part
yatra
of his
is
diplomatic thing that,
a continuation of a process
don't
that started
grab that
last
seat
year.
from China and then
Bharat
China will
Jodo
become
Yatra
more
was a
reasonable.
process that
I
was
don't know
very
if
well
it was
received.
about that. But the
And
fact remains
But a
that
this
degree
part
of
of Bharat Jodo
magnetism
Yatra, which is the
and
Bharat
yet he put
Nyaya
China's
Yatra,
interests over India.
Putting China's interest over India,
elaborates on
Sanjay Jha,
what we spoke
this
about
charge
during the
was
Bharat
leveled
Jodo
by
Yatra.
Arun Jaitley when he
So
called
definitely
Pandit
it
Jawaharlal
has
Nehru
its
the original
a
sinner,
lot of
quoting
takers.
what,
The country
what at that time
needs
was
this kind
described
of
as
a message.
Nehru's
The
August
country
2nd,
needs
1955
articulation
letter to
of
Chief
the
Minister.
concerns that
Dr.
our younger
Jaishankar
generation
says
has.
it's a major change. The
Every
China
single
policy
Indian again, he is going through these concerns. So I think the Yatra addresses those concerns and articulates those concerns very well.
Gaurav, let me
Mr. Khera, you talk about the narrative, you talk about the messaging. one can't deny the fact that whichever way one might want to look at the Bharatiya Janata Party, it's very clear on what they're going in this election with. They have a fixed Prime Minister face. They have a Viksit Sankalp Bharat plan which ties into the La Bharati plan. They have the Ram Mandir. They have deliverance, the last mile delivery. All of that which comes together, there is a message in there.
I think it is an
be it whether you like it or not. When it comes down to the Congress or the India Alliance, till now, one big criticism has been that there is no one message or a single narrative that you've been able to build. The caste census is at least not sticking on ground with whatever little empirical evidence that has come from it. Communal angle where you've charged the BJP hasn't found traction. So one would say even starting the yatra in Nagpur where the RSS headquarters is could have been foolhardy rather than audacious.
Effort done by Mr. Jaishankar. And
Nagpur, there is a reason why we went to Nagpur.
This is God of
I don't know why there is an obsession and a direct connection between Nagpur and Sangh. I'm sorry, Nagpur has a direct connection with Baba Saheb Ambedkar.
On 27th of September 1955,
it's where the Constitution of India, we all derive our inspiration from Nagpur. And our entire fight is the fight to protect the Constitution of India. Where else do you think we would have gone?
The UN Security Council.
We had to go to Nagpur. So I don't know why Nagpur and Sangh. I mean, the moment you think of Nagpur, you should think of oranges. But
okay, fair enough. But address the first part of the question. At least, do you agree that there is no single narrative or a message that the alliance has come up with till now?
Which have no foundation in fact. The composition of the Security Council is prescribed by the Charter of the
narrative becomes very clear.
And according to that, only a decision can be taken.
Which so the question of very immediately, hatred is something which is very easily articulated, very easy to fan passions around hatred, very difficult to tread the path of the Congress party, which is of love, which is of harmony, which is of addressing all aspirations, talking about every single group, talking about justice, talking about nyaya. These are not easy concepts to
Dr. Jaishankar has been quoted as
comprehend,
when
to
it came
be
to the
articulate, to see
UNSCC
electorally
to say
use them.
China
it's not easy.
should get it first.
Who said it was going to be easy? And we are absolutely fine with a difficult path.
Statement to make.
What
do you make of
we
it?
are aware of the challenges of articulating these concepts. But the moment these concepts get simplified, people start relating to these concepts immediately.
To Chief
They
Ministers
understand
dated
that
August 2, 1955
if the government is not agreeing to cast censors, well,
by the
here
United
is the
States
data,
China should be
here is the
taken into the
evidence that
United
there has been
Nations, but
injustice
not
to
in the
several
Security
castes.
Council. And that
When Rahul
India
Gandhi
should
talks
take
about
a place
90 officers
in
who
the
are running
Security
the
Council,
country,
we cannot,
not
of course,
one or
accept
maybe
this
one is
as
there's
it
a
means
3%
falling out
ROBCs.
with
It makes
China.
sense. People
It would
immediately
be
start
very
thinking.
unfair for a
So
great country
BJP's
like
narrative
China
is
not to
easy.
be in the
Congress's
Security Council.
narrative is difficult, and we are happy to tread the difficult path because that's the path which talks about
I have great respect for my old
but Mr.
colleague
Khera, this is
Jaishankar.
at the cost of the voter, no? Because how do you simplify it for the voter? Because the voter is a little confused. They're not being able to figure out what is it that you're taking to them.
Believe me, they are not confused.
His knowledge
in our
of these
studios
things
and
is
in our
far more than
boardrooms,
mine.
in our
But
political party
if I
rooms, maybe
recollect
we get
correctly,
a feeling that people are confused. Go and talk to people. In Rajasthan, in Madhya Pradesh, in Chhattisgarh, we may have lost the election, but talk to people. They are understanding what we're talking about. But of course, in the heat and dust and the loudness of our elections, a lot of messages get lost. But messages of Bharat Jodo Yatra stick. They have a resonance even today. And believe me, you will see the resonance of the Part 2 Yatra also very loud and clear in the weeks and months to come.
What Jaishankar has said is
the question which is often brought to your alliance, Mr. Khera, is that who's going to lead it? Now, in your last meeting, you've had somebody like a Mamata Banerjee supported by Arvind Kejriwal, mooted the name of Mr. Kharge. However, your own party is not seemingly have not echoed the same thought.
Mr. Kharge himself responded to it immediately, so I don't see any reason for me to comment on it. In any alliance, in elections, in politics, in any party, it's the base and not the face which matters. It's the kind of issues that you raise that matter. It's the kind of resonance of those issues that matter. I think it's very premature to even start talking about this.
And
would the India Alliance actually go into this election without a prime ministerial face, Mr. Khera?
Cannot
I think the
imagine
question to be asked
that the
is
Russians would have exceeded. If you recollect,
what are the issues that India Alliance will 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? What are the 5 issues on which India Alliance will go to the people? People want to know about issues. Enough of a face.
So I
We've had
can't
a face
imagine that
for 10 years, for God's sake, and what has that face done?
Acquiesced in
Many would turn around, Mr. Khera, and say that the Congress has been trying to prop up a face for many years itself in the form of Mr. Rahul Gandhi.
I remember 2004, before the elections, similar questions were asked. There were not many channels then, but whatever channels we had, this question would be asked to everyone. Who's your face? 2004, oh, there is a solid, charismatic face of Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Who will counter Atal Bihari Vajpayee? What happened?
Romanticism.
This country is too wise to get caught in this debate of which is your face, what is your... That's not what the people are interested in, believe me.
Was there
I'll ask you last 2 questions. What's going to be so different which wasn't there in 2019? You spoke of Nyaya in 2019. Nobody, there was no traction for that. You're talking of Nyaya in 2024. What's different in this election?
Prime Minister
Modi 2019 was
embarked
not a normal election.
Endorsed
the events that preceded the election,
his remarks to the Shanghai,
took care of everything else. I mean, they overshadowed every concept, every campaign, every other issue raised by any other party. So we cannot compare 2019 with any other election which took place in the past or which will take place in the future.
Which he does even in this book.
The concept of Nyaya after Bharat Jodo Yatra and now through this Yatra gets further clarified, gets further defined, and I think if you dovetail Nyaya with census based on caste,
we've tried
numbers,
realism.
Everything fits into the jigsaw puzzle. Everybody starts understanding what you're talking about.
Has said,
my last question, sir, we go away from, let's not talk about the social narrative or the social fabric, but when you look at the political fabric, there's a clear divide. There is a north-south divide, especially for the Congress. You don't seem to be speaking the language of the Hindi heartland, at least as of now. Congress in the south, clearly much stronger than Congress in the north. And now with the Ram Temple coming in, your yatra is going to be traversing that same landscape.
China walk all over us. Are we, when you put 50,000 troops on the line of actual control,
if the Congress's vote share is 40-41%, and we are strong in the south, doesn't that make us to be the strongest party, pan-India party in the country?
Of course,
so when you talk about data, you just talk about BJP. On the contrary, my question is the BJP is only strong, and that too, it has a very solid rival in the Congress party in the north, and BJP has no presence in the south. So that makes BJP a weaker party than the Congress.
A different India, and the Chinese know that.
Right now, at least perception-wise, it doesn't seem so, Mr. Khera.
But data is 40-41% in the north and very strong in the south. That makes us one strong pan-India party.
All right, sir, we're going to leave it at that. We wish you well, but thank you for taking the time out and joining us this evening. Mr. Gokhale, all well where the India Alliance is going, at least where the seat sharing is concerned. You seem to have passed your deadline of 31st December.
The point is that when you evaluate these things,
and I mean the seat sharing talks have been going on for a while. Ever since the India meeting happened. And like I said earlier, the thing is that there is already existing seat sharing in many states. I mean, if you look at Maharashtra, there is Congress NCP, Shiv Sena. They have been in an alliance.
Gaurav, I'm not getting the audio very clearly, so I can't really hear.
Similarly,
I've missed the last part of Mr. Karju's thing.
RJD and
but if you allow me to come on the earlier part of
we have to
Mr.
start from scratch or start from a blank canvas.
Again,
there were already existing alliances in most
Mr. Modi's initial interactions with the Chinese president.
Things needed to be ironed out, and that's
I think Mr. Karju is being a little disingenuous.
Is there a sense where the allies are concerned because we've been speaking to a lot of ally partners, and there's a fatigue that seems to be setting in. There's a sense of impatience because right now, at least where the Congress is concerned, the sense or the perception is it's really not in a hurry while the time is running out.
And what was the Indian reaction?
No,
And what
I
was
think
the tone and tenor
things changed
in
a
which
lot after the
Indian
last
side
India meeting,
responded?
which happened
And
on
this was a
19th of
government which
December.
was, I think, maybe
I'm
just
pretty
about
sure
a
the
month
Congress Party
into
leadership
office,
also
maybe a little more. I
has
don't remember the
understood, has
exact date.
realized the urgency
So
of
the point
getting
is that
seat sharing done
you
and sort of
put your
putting,
best
you know,
foot
us
forward,
putting together a
but you
cohesive
also
campaign.
dug in your
So
heels where
I
you needed
personally
to.
don't
Number
think
one.
that,
Number two,
you know, this
yes,
notion that they're
as
not in a hurry
part
is
of
true.
diplomacy, you continue to
Everyone is
engage
working
with the
together.
Chinese,
Everyone
but
realizes
you didn't give in
the
on anything
urgency.
to them.
And, you know,
to
accordingly,
say
we have
that the
worked
Chinese
things together
wanted
out
to
on
put
that
your
front.
troops along the border because
But,
then they will
the
outspend you.
Congress
Then
now
let's not put
is
any troops
embarking on a
along the border.
90-day
Then everybody can outspend
an exercise in self-indulgence, political expedition, if you might want to call it. Do you see this as the cost of the India alliance, that maybe this is the time to strategize and come up with a cohesive narrative and a plan?
On this whole question of imports,
see,
the
I
bottom
don't
line
think
is that,
you know, these two are
ask
sort of mutually
anybody on
exclusive.
critical infrastructure
Mr.
and
Gandhi is doing
imports have
this
more or less
yatra,
stopped from
and
China.
you know, it is a
On
form
a
of
range of
election
other
campaigning.
things,
I think
we
he's going
are
to be traveling from what I've
asking
heard
companies to
through the
start
media, through
manufacturing in
different states,
India.
going from
This
west
is
to
not
east
something, this is not a light
and
switch
west
which
to
will
the
happen.
northeast.
You switch on a
So
light and
I mean,
suddenly all
I
the
wouldn't see
production
this
will
as
happen
being
in India
necessarily
and you don't
a
need China after
non-electoral
that.
exercise.
In
I mean,
fact,
elections are coming
even
up,
after
and he
you
most
become
definitely will be
Atmanirbhar,
campaigning
you will
through this
continue to
period.
deal with China
And at
at
the
an
same
economic
time, it's
level
not that,
because
you know,
after all, it's
you
the
know,
second
the
largest
yatra is
economy
the
in the
only
world.
thing
You
that is
can't
going to be
completely
happening
ignore
in
them.
West
The
Bengal, for
Americans have not
example.
been able to
We've
do
already
it. So
started
to
our
expect
campaign
us
since
that
early
we'll be able
December,
to do it
late November,
overnight
early December.
simply because the
So,
Prime Minister
you know,
has
in West
voted in
Bengal,
favor of
as our
Atmanirbhar
Chief
Bharat,
Minister
which
Mamata
is
Banerjee has
exactly
said
what we should be
that
doing.
TMC is
I
the
think
party
that's
that is
rather
going to be
unfair.
fighting
And
the BJP in
finally,
West Bengal.
on this whole,
And the TMC, we have already
this Nehru
started work on the
controversy.
campaign. I'm
See,
sure it's
the
happened in a lot
bottom
of
line
states. I'm
is
sure
that
DMK has
whatever
started
the
a while ago in
international
Tamil Nadu. I'm
context,
sure
and we can have
RJD
arguments
JDO
on
started
that,
in Bihar.
but I
I'm
think
pretty
the
sure
primary
Samajwadi
thing
Party has
is
started
that
in
when
Uttar
Pandit
Pradesh.
Nehru
So I
writes
think
to
this
the chief
yatra
ministers and he says that
complementary
China
to
is
all
this
the other
great
election
country
campaigns that are
and
being
China
conducted by
must
different
be
parties in
there.
different
It's only
states.
after that we will come
Do
in.
you
The
Do you think,
point is
Mr.
that you
Gokhale,
are
that
putting
the
China's
pressure
interest
or
first
the
in
hurdles will
a
be
written
posed by the
letter
local
to
unit
Indian Chief
of the
Minister?
Congress party?
And
Because
the fact
the
was that
Congress
while
party till
Taiwan
now
had been
is
given
used to
China's
playing the
seat,
mother or the father
this
of a
is an
coalition.
informal
And
kind
now
of a
the
sounding
allies,
out
understandably, would want it to
that
play
you bring in
be
India
on
rather
equal
than
keel,
China, that
a
China is
brother
not
or a
interested,
sister.
so you keep
And
China
that's
out
not
and you
really
bring
how
India in.
the states
We should
unit
have
see it.
played
And I'll
with
give you an
it.
example.
Why didn't we play with it?
In
We should have seen how far it goes. We
the
should have
Shiv
seen
Sena
where the
has
Soviets
demanded
stand. We should have
23
seen where the
seats. A
Chinese
local
stand.
unit from the likes of Mr. Ashok
Where the
Chavan has
Americans
outrightly
stand
said
and
that's
where the
not going to
Brits and the
happen.
French will
The
stand.
Congress wants 8
So
seats
we
in
should have
West
put
Bengal. Their
Indian
leader
national
Mamata Banerjee has
interest first.
clearly
Pandit
stated
Nehru was this
that it is
great
only
guy.
but the TMC
I
that
think-
can
I don't
defeat
know.
the
I'm
BJP
sorry, I
in
don't agree
Bengal.
with that
So how
form
are you
of
going to
diplomacy.
maneuver all of
Fair
this?
enough. Ambassador Kaju
I
wants to
don't
come in
think
as the
because
Sanjay
see,
Jha.
as
But Ambassador Kaju, you want to quickly respond to
remember
Sushant Sareen
Mr.
on the
Sanjay
letter
Raut
to
of
the
the Shiv
Chief
Sena
Minister,
giving a
especially
statement
that
very
aspect.
clearly that
Why not put
the
Indian
talks,
interest first?
you know, as far as seat sharing goes, as far as
Look,
the
I
alliance
can't
goes,
imagine
are being
any
conducted by
Indian Prime
respective
Minister
leaders
who
of
has not
parties
put
in Delhi.
Indian interests first.
So all of this is
Starting
happening
from
at a very
Prime
centralized
Minister
level,
Nehru,
and every party, and it is the job of every party to work together with their state units.
Okay,
or
give me
their
a moment
local
as I
units,
try and
Prime Minister-
and
establish.
sort of make them
Prime Minister
understand
Modi is a
that these
patriot.
elections have
He
been
has
fought
put
in a spirit of cooperation,
he has put
where it's
Indian
one
interests
party
first,
on
and
one
so
seat,
I
one
believe
candidate versus the
that
BJP.
Pandit Nehru
And
put Indian interests first.
it's
Now,
all in
we
our
can
party.
disagree.
It's completely
We can
fine, and
disagree with
we're all
certain
on board with the
phraseology
India
that he
Alliance.
had used.
I'm sure
We
the
can
other
disagree
parties
with
are, and I'm sure
his
the
approach to
Congress
China.
leadership also will
in the
sit down
context
with
of
their state
62.
units, will have a discussion.
But
I'm pretty
the
sure they'll
point
convey the
is
same to them.
that his
When you talk
leading, I
about
believe, in
messaging and a
1955
narrative,
was
Mr. Gokhale, if you turn around and you look
Okay,
at,
give me a
let's say,
moment as we try and
the
reestablish
Bharatiya
that
Janata
link with
Party,
you,
whether
sir.
you like it,
The
accept
loss
it,
of
dislike it, the fact
Aksai
is,
Chin,
it's very clear
Hindi
messaging.
Chini,
There They have a firm Prime Minister face in place. You have something like the Viksit Sankalp Bharat Yatra, which ties into the Bharati last mile delivery. Then you have the Ram Mandir in January. There seems to be very pointed, clear narrative. And on the other hand, the India alliance seems to completely lack that. What is the narrative that you're taking? What's your message to the people this time?
So the message is very simple. I mean, for example, if we talk about this Viksit Bharat Sankalp Yatra, it's quite unfortunate that this is a government program. Technically, it's being done with taxpayer money, but the BJP has turned that into their own campaign.
That's off the table.
So, I mean, this is the clear misuse of taxpayer money, the public machinery, but let's not get into that. The BJP does not have any intention of fighting the election fair and square. They brought the election commissioner's bill as well. So we know that's not what they want.
Number one,
but as far as the narrative goes, look, a Ram
You are
Mandir is not
today literally
going
surrounded
to take away
by
the fact that
states
people are
which have
unemployed.
become friendlier
You know, a
towards
Viksit
China.
Bharat Sankalp
Maldives
Yatra,
has
BJP
openly
going door
pivoted,
to door and saying
officially
Vikas
pivoted
ho raha
towards
hai,
China.
progress is happening,
We know the
is not
investments in
going
Sri Lanka are
to reduce
resulting in
the
a
gas bill,
political
the LPG bill of
asymmetrical
people.
imbalance.
It is
You
not
look at
going to make
Bhutan
tomatoes
and
cheaper or
Nepal,
onions
they
cheaper
are
for them.
all
It is not
actually
going to
now,
reduce inflation just because
kind
the
of
BJP
pussy-footing
says
with
so.
China
Because
very
even after the
openly.
Viksit
And of
Bharat
course, I
Sankalp
think these
Yatra
are
ban
all
goes away,
significant
people are
messages
going to go to
of
the
the
market
kind
and
of
they're going to
risks we
pay
are
whatever the
exposing
market rate
ourselves
for
to.
sabzi
Not
and
to
other
forget,
things is.
obviously,
So
about the
the
risks of a
narrative is
two-front
very
war
standard and
with
very
the
clear across this
Pakistan-China
country.
axis. How can Mr.
Unemployment,
Jaishankar
price
use
rise,
hyperbole
and
to
a
dodge this
general
reality?
sense of
Point number
economic
two,
despair
he talks
has
about
plagued
India's
the people. The
prestige,
BJP
etc.
has made
Let me
several
tell you, I think
promises.
Mr. Jaishankar
Prime Minister
should
Modi has
read
not
the
been able to
foreign media
deliver
that
those
he clearly has
promises.
contempt
So,
for,
you know, and,
because
and,
that is
and
an
I
equal
refuse
determinant
to
of your
accept
global
the
reputation.
argument that the BJP
And the
has
truth
its
is that on
messaging and
democracy,
everything in
on
place,
sectarianism,
because they
on the
don't.
death
You know,
of
in the
India's
recent assembly elections, we've
institutions,
seen the
India
BJP
is
taking
taking an
union ministers,
extremely
making them
nasty
contest
hit
as
all over
MLAs.
the world.
You don't even know
Obviously,
what
you're a big
candidates they're going to
economy,
put up on
foreign
what
powers
scene.
will quote
The
you.
BJP
Everyone wants
also,
to go
when they
to a big
suspend
consumer market and a
146
cheap
MPs
labor
in
market.
parliament,
But that
I'm
has
sorry,
nothing to
but
do with
that
Modi.
when a party
Anyone who
suspends
becomes the Prime Minister in
146 India MPs
2024
in
will
parliament
reap
in
the
the last
harvest of a
session
country
before the
which has a
elections,
certain
that to me
threshold
does not
of a
look like a very
GDP size.
secure or
And the
confident
last
party that's
point
going into the
before I
elections.
conclude,
So the
I
BJP
think
might think the
Speaker
messaging
Prakash
is
asked him a
clear,
question
but this
on
Ram
the
Mandir
issue of all
messaging they've
these,
used
the
since
issues in Canada
1993. There is
and
an
the
expiry
recent
date for
US
everything.
government
So I
inquiry
personally do
into
not
the
believe
attempt to
that when
murder
people are
a
unemployed,
Sikh
people are
separatist.
starving,
And Mr.
BJP can again
Jaishankar,
latch on
like
to
his
the old
guru,
Ram
Mr.
Mandir issue
Modi,
and is going to
actually
help them
told her,
like it
no
helped them in
questions, please.
93
This
or
is
even
not a
after
press
that, because
conference.
now
No,
people
he
have
did
moved on. It's a new
answer the
generation.
question on-
There are
no,
new
he did
issues.
answer the
They
question
can't
on-
keep
on,
flogging the
Canada,
same old
where he
issues
said,
over
"Give
and
us
over
evidence,
again and
we'll look
expect
at it."
people to keep voting for them.
Yeah, but
He
you know,
did
My
it
final
respond to
question,
the-
Mr. Gokhale, is a
No,
question
Gaurav, I
that
think he stonewalled
has
that
been posed many
conversation. I
times
thought
to
Speaker
many of your
Prakash
India allies,
did
and that
ask
is
him to
India
kind of
alliance
elaborate,
versus
because
who.
the Indian
You have the
government
Prime
has said,
Minister on
we
the
will
other hand, your
inquire
own
into
party
whatever
leader
are the
in the
allegations
last
made,
meeting
at
has
least
mooted the name
why
of Mr.
would we
Kharge,
think that
which
the
was
Western
turned down by
media,
Mr.
I'm sorry,
Kharge
I
himself,
disagree with
along
you,
with other allies like
very
Mr. Pawar.
respectfully, Sanjay Jha, on why
No,
should
it's
we
not a
accept
question of
what the
both
Western
versus.
media
Like
may write
I have
as the gospel?
constantly said, and we have
You're an
constantly
Indian
said
citizen.
that
You know what's
there is
happening in
no.
our
That's
country.
what Prime
You don't
Minister
want
Modi
Western
wants.
validation,
He
do
wants
you?
it to be
But let
him
me get
versus
Sushant Sareen.
one
Let
face,
me get
so that the
Sushant
dirty
Sareen to
tricks
respond to
department can
that.
start with
No,
edited
because there is
videos
such
and targeting that
uninformed
one
commentary that's
individual.
happening in
We're not
a
going to
section of
give
the
them that
Western media.
benefit. So
I'm
in
surprised
Bengal,
we should
it is Modi versus Mamata
even
Banerjee.
consider
In Tamil Nadu,
what the
it's Modi
Western
versus
media
M.K.
writes,
Stalin.
especially
In
when there
Delhi,
are
it's
some
Modi
articles
versus
that
Arvind
write that
Kejriwal.
Russia is
In
India's
Bihar, it's
new
Modi
best
versus
friend.
Nitish Kumar,
Really?
Lalu Prasad
New
Yadav, and
best friend.
Tejasvi Yadav. So
But
let Modi
Sushant
come
Sareen,
to
you
our
wanted to
states.
come
Let
in
Modi come
both
and
on
his
the aspect of
narrative
Pakistan
of
and
I'm the
Canada.
king and it's
Yeah,
me
but
versus who.
Gaurav,
It's Mr.
on
Modi
the
versus
Western
28
media,
leaders
not
of
only
28
do
parties. Now it's up to
people like
Mr. Modi
Mr.
to devise a
Jha
campaign for
look for
every state.
validation from the Western media,
And he
they
doesn't
actually
really
look
have
for
much of a knowledge
intervention from the
because
West
let me
to
remind
try
you,
and make
all
India a
the
more
states that
democratic
we're talking
country.
about,
From the
every party
United
we have an
States,
India
where
alliance,
a
except for
prime,
maybe one or two,
a
we're
presidential
all ruling
candidate is
parties
being
in one
debarred
state
and
in
not being
India.
allowed to
So let
contest
Mr. Modi
from
come
countries
and
in Europe,
every
which
state
are
the dominant party,
electing
the leader of that
leaders,
party will.
which Mr. Jha would certainly not countenance, and yet it's democracy in India that is affected, and which is why these guys are going all over the world trying to lobby for support.
Warm welcome, you're
so that
watching India Today. I'm
is
Preeti
bad-mouthed,
Chaudhary and
India
wishing
is this,
all our
and these
viewers
guys
a
think that
very,
will
very
get them
happy New
votes
Year.
in Bhagalpur
I also want to tell
and
you all
Bhiwandi
that
and
now
all kinds of
we
other
have
places in this country.
officially
Good luck
entered
to them.
a
On the issue
blockbuster
of
political year. The next
Pakistan,
5 months,
Gaurav,
India will
I think
witnessed
what the
a
Prime Minister,
political
what the
clash
Foreign
never
Minister said
seen
was
before.
correct.
General
But I
elections
think even on
2024,
Pakistan,
the
that
NDA
realism in
facing
India's
off
policy
with
came
the
after
India
the Uri
alliance.
attacks and the
So
first
over the
surgical
course of
strike.
the next 45 minutes,
took it
viewers,
up
we are going to
one
get some of the
notch
top
after,
leaders of the BJP and the India alliance
Pulwama
parties
attacks.
to come
And
together
now it has become a
and give
policy.
out their
But I
mission
don't think the Pakistanis have
2024.
changed their policy of using
And joining
terrorism
me
to
this
try
evening
and
on the
bring India
first
onto the
day
table.
of a year,
And you will
which
see
will
that
have
in
massive
recent
political
statements,
implications,
including of Shahbaz
is
Sharif,
Pawan
who's
Khera
probably
from the
whose
Congress,
lexicon is a
Sudhanshu
little
Trivedi
challenged,
from
so
the
he thinks
Bharatiya
what is
Janata
happening in
Party,
Kashmir is a
Saket
genocide.
Gokhale
He
from the
probably never saw the
TMC, and
pictures
Arvind
of Lal
Sawant
Chowk on
from
the
the Shiv
31st
Sena
December
UBT
night.
faction.
Because in Lahore and everywhere else, their puppet Prime Minister had banned all kinds of celebration.
Biggest
So
battle in
Shahbaz
the new
Sharif is
year.
clearly challenged and he's trying to suck up to the army like the other politicians. The army itself has come out with
Modi's
statements
bomb pitch,
which are
Viksit Bharat
obnoxious
by
to
2047.
say the least. And you have the Pakistani Foreign Office make its typical vituperative comments on India. So I don't think the Pakistani policy on India has changed, but I suspect that
Will the BJP
maybe
ride
Mr.
the Ayodhya
Jaishankar
wave?
might just have left a little
opening for the Pakistanis that in case they want to,
Mandir
you know,
dilemma
re-engage
for
with India at a
opposition.
political level, they are ready to do it. But we also made it very clear that we haven't completely broken off engagement.
Hindutva
we cannot,
versus
because
caste
simply
census.
because, you know, you're neighboring countries, so you have to
जिस
do
दिन
some
मैंने
business
कहा
of
कि
trade with each other. But
की
beyond
आबादी
that,
कितनी है,
Pakistan's relationship with Pakistan is going to go
उस दिन के बाद नरेंद्र मोदी कहते हैं, भाइयों बहनों, हिंदुस्तान में एक ही जात है, गरीब।
Modi's guarantee versus Congress guarantee.
मोदी की गारंटी मतलब
in the policy that was
हर
followed
गारंटी
earlier?
के पूरा होने की
Okay, I
गारंटी।
still do not have that link with
Can the
Ambassador
India
Kaju.
alliance
Sushant
get
sir,
its act
quickly,
together?
Sorry, Secretary, you want to come in, sir?
Yeah. I wanted to make
Now
this
coming
point
to the
here
moot point, sir.
that, you know,
ये
it
जो
is
अब
very
लड़ाई
easy
है,
for Sushant Sari to say, you know,
India
just kind
alliance
of trash the
बनाम
Western
NDA
media.
कैसे
But this is
देखते
the
हैं?
same foreign minister. This is the same
मुझे लगता
Mr.
है कि
Modi
इसमें
who
कोई
are
लड़ाई
actually
नहीं है.
very
I don't
happy
think
to
there is
become
any
the bulwark for
fight or
United
contest
States
in between.
to contain China
एक
as
तरफ
part
है
of their policy
मोदी
here,
जी के
which are
नेतृत्व
very
में
happy to
एनडीए
attract
जो
FDI
भरोसे का
investment, which are very
गठबंधन
happy to say that this is what
भरोसे का
Biden said about
नेतृत्व
Trump, Biden
और
and Trump
भरोसे की
said about
पार्टी
Modi. But
और
hang
दूसरी
on, when
तरफ
the New York Times or the Western media says that
भ्रम का
Indian
गठबंधन
democracy or Indian
भ्रम
communalism
में
is
पड़ा
waging,
हुआ
then you
विपक्ष
say, well, you know,
और
kindly ignore them.
नेता तो
What's sauce
छोड़िए
for the goose is sauce
कोऑर्डिनेटर
for the
तक के लिए
gander.
भ्रमित
That
हुआ
hypocrisy doesn't
So
work.
it is
And
a
I think
clear
Mr. Jaishankar
cut
had to defend up ki baat
choice
from
between
Sarkar, which I
भ्रम
thought
and
was the most
भरोसा means
embarrassing
a
diplomatic gap
confidence
in India's
and
diplomatic
suspicion.
history.
Okay, if I were to come back to
Sudhanshu
the
ji, now the
Pakistan
opposition,
policy,
the India alliance is building it as a direct fight of ideologies, of what their ideology, which is secularism, democracy, Samvidhan, constitution, against what they deem is yours, which is dictatorial way of functioning.
No, actually, by any
Pakistan
parameters,
policy
I would just
after
humbly like to
Balakot
ask them, can
has
they
been the
tell
correct policy,
any
and I
one
believe that
single
the Modi
ideological
government
issue
has done
in which
the
they have
right
not
thing in
changed their
this.
position
But,
from their inception?
Let us not
Can Congress
also
tell me in last
overlook the
72
fact
years
that it took
after
some
independence?
time to reach this position.
At least. Forget about
as
this 138
always, there
years.
is
Can they
continuity
tell a single
and change in
instance on which they have not changed
And
their
today,
stand?
I welcome
I just tell you, the caste census.
policy
Who
that is
stopped the
being
caste
pursued with
census?
Pakistan.
Till British time it was happening, and in 1951
some
who took the
time in
decision?
coming
Jawaharlal
to
Nehru's
this
government took the
position.
decision,
It
and the
took
Constituent
the
Assembly
tragedy
took
of
the decision
Pulwama
because the
to come
election
to this
took place in
position, but
1952.
Now that it has
And
reached this, and
now
the
they are
fact
saying,
that they
and on what
pursued it
basis?
for
Because
5
they
years is
said
right.
that we will not do the
All
caste
the
census
time
because
we
ये
were
अंग्रेजों
saying
की
terror
फूटदारो
and
राजनीति का था.
can't
Now
go
they should
together.
make it very clear. And then from Indira Ji's time,
since
जात पे ना पात पे इंदिरा जी की बात पे मोहर लगे कि हाथ पे.
2019,
Then in Rajiv Ji's time, on 6th of December 1990, while speaking on the floor of the House against Mandal Commission, Rajiv Gandhi said, Congress जात पात का विश्वास नहीं करती है. हम तो कहते हैं जात पे ना पात पे मोहर लगेगी हाथ पे. Now tell me, where is your ideological position? On one hand, you want to say that you were in favor of Babri Masjid. You said that
simultaneously.
Narasimha Rao said that we will rebuild the Babri Mosque. Now you say that you are